Hey everybody, this is Wendy and the Stripology podcast. Today I have a special guest who I've wanted to have on here for quite a while. His name is Dane Tomas, and Dane is many things, and he's also one thing, a really cool guy. But Dane has a lot of different interests, in like sex magic, wealth creation, musician. When I first met Dane, I was just saying, we met at a silent retreat and I saw him hand at the end when we could speak again, the facilitator, a book called The Conscious Hustle. And that really piqued my interest. And I was like, oh, what is this? So I've been diving into Dane's content for a long time now, many years, and it's never the same day to day. It's really interesting. And so, thank you so much for being here, Dane. I really appreciate taking the time.
So welcome. Hello, everybody.
Amazing. So, tell us a little bit about what is at the surface for you at the moment.
For me, I'm in transition. I just bought a house at the start of March. I came back from travels to do that. And I've been renovating that and turning that into kind of a temple house, workshop, retreaty house, which it's a big job. It's partly done. And I am tomorrow flying back to Europe for another round of retreats, tantra retreats and whatnot. Got some workshops, got some retreats across UK, Italy, Turkey, etc. And I'll spend a month in Germany where I'll host something we're probably going to talk about later, the wealth wizardry course that I'm going to be running. So I'm going to be hopping around Europe for the next 4 months. So I'm in a bit of a transition from my I'm an astrology nerd, so I feel like my Cancerian homebody into my like Sagittarian adventurer. I'm in this moment. I'm right on the cusp of like, okay, I can't take my fluffy slippers. Oh no, I don't think I can pack my dressing gown. And it's like, dude, just switch gears, and I'm about to just go back out into the world. So I'm having a little. My last 2 days have been sort of packing up the house and transitioning, and just trying to get a few pieces in the business. I'm trying to automate a lot more this year is one of my goals, So I'm trying to get some of that done before I disappear into tantra retreats and that kind of thing, and go into a completely different world,
Yes, that sounds so good. I love how you just said sort of that transition. I can relate to that so much personally, and I know a lot of listeners will. Like, when we're entertaining, when we're in the club, it's like you're not comfortable. You're in really high shoes, tight underwear, whatever. And then you can retreat home and be like, oh, anything fluffy, like give it to me, So that sounds incredible. Your tantra retreats around Europe. And so tell us a little bit more about, I know that something that you're really passionate about is the spiritual community and sort of wealth attraction, wealth retaining. A lot of people in the spiritual community might not have the confidence, or what do you put it down to where they might be undercharging, or the different things that can affect abundance?
Look, there's a few layers, but one of the biggest things is the conditioning we've grown up with. What you're worth, how money is made, etc. Like the way I grew up was like, you've got to get a real job and you've got to work super hard, and that would probably be something quite grounded and boring. And you should go and get a trade. My dad was kind of laborer and worker and whatnot, so his mentality was get a trade. And then the other world, I guess, I saw was like, okay, or either you work with your hands in the trade or you go get an office job, and those are the things that normal people do, and that's how you get paid. And I'm like, I don't fucking want to do either of those fucking things. So I became an artist. If there's one kind of person who has a worse money mindset than spiritual people, it's artists, in general. And the roots beneath it, I think, are quite similar. So one is how we grew up. If you were raised by like millionaire spiritual people or millionaire artists, you would probably have learned, hey, it's super easy. You can do it doing this, but most of us were not. So I think background and conditioning. But then I think, if you go into something like the spiritual scene, which is sort of it's for people who want an alternative to the mainstream world. So there's a big rejection of what is seen as, the capitalist system or the evil the big bad, the banking, the stock market, all that is kind of evil, and we're just going to do our meditation or do our, whatever the fuck we do, and that's higher and better, and we just want to hang out up here.
Yeah.
But in spiritual terms, I think of the money as, down there, like lower chakras, like the root chakra is survival stuff. It's like these deeper, darker energies, and a lot of people who found themselves in the spiritual scene or an artist or whatever, more sensitive, more intuitive, more wanting to just dwell in the kind of high vibe, whatever realms. There's a lot of stigma and dogma around like money's dirty or you're selfish or, you're not doing things for the right reasons. If you're a healer, it should be for free or whatever. And all of this to me is kind of a cultural split that says, the mind and body are separate, or spirit and matter are separate, or whatever. There's these separations of like the high and the low and the light and the dark. And it's like a lot of my work, even though it looks different in different realms, like you said, I'm making music, I'm doing sex magic, I'm doing businessy stuff. It's all of it is about kind of the integration of spirit and matter, and the integration of mind and body, and the integration of things that seem like they are opposites, And so I think for the spiritual people who are still in the kind of Pavo realms, they are caught up in a piece of religious conditioning, right? Like even if it's a Tantra person or whatever, there's essentially like this Christian style conditioning in the background that sort of says, what are these old quotes like, money is the root of all evil. And, it's either easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Not a lot of good money codes in the Bible. A lot of self-hating fucking Pavo codes, which is very interesting when you look at like the Vatican or whatever, which is just like a giant pile of gold and artworks and riches, and it's like, yes, be poor and give it all to us. So basically, I'm not really a conspiracy type person. I don't really I don't really care about a lot of those kind of internet narratives and those things that people get really caught into. But it does seem to me that the masses in general have been trained to not value ourselves. And if you go into spiritual, artistic, or whatever little subcultures, that just seems to be, it's the same thing. It's just compounded and wrapped in sort of spiritual language of like, oh no, I just want to do my meditation, sip my tea, I just do sexuality stuff. But, like being in the Tantra world is interesting because there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work around their sexuality. So they have healed a lot and are quite sexually open. But if I bring up money in some of those conversations, it's like I've just dropped a different taboo. So these people are very relaxed around sexual stuff is not a trigger as much as the mainstream world, but talk about how much you made in a month or money goals or whatever. And it's a bit like, oh, why did you go to bring that up? That's a bit uncomfortable. And, everybody's got their limits, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you've done, there's just so many areas, and money is its own kind of area, that level and look at like, what was I taught, what other stories around money. I shared on a previous podcast a while ago, but I had an interesting extreme sort of opposite demonstration that was given to me by each parent. My dad was a vet, but he was in an accident and he ended up getting life compensation paid out. But it took about 25 years to win that case. And so he lived in Switzerland, carefree, hippie, smokes weed every day, doesn't give a shit, always somehow has money, like he collects opals, and he's an interesting character, sort of like a pirate. He's got this, pile of treasure that art and gems usually, and, a young wife and just all these things, and really just didn't give a shit about anything. And then on top of that, ended up getting millions of pounds paid to him and just kind of gifted that around to random people. And he didn't actually want it. It was just, it's just this demonstration of like, this sort of feeling like it's not a problem, and it never has been a problem for him. Whereas on the opposite end of the spectrum, growing up with mum, a single parent, you know, three kids and a primary school teacher, and she saved $30 a fortnight for a lot of years, worked her ring off. Like, I saw how stressed she was all the time, complete overwhelm permanently, you know. And I think she, after so many years, saved 5,000 and you know, bought a house in the country. And you know, it took a lot of hard work, and I saw firsthand. So it's like, I feel really blessed for that I managed somehow to cherry pick both the never stressing about money and saying that it can be really fun, and you know, if you're chasing it, it kind of runs away, and it's kind of, you know, just all these different ideas about it. And then sort of cherry picking from my mum the responsibility as well of, like, you know, respecting the little bits that she could get together and putting them towards something that was meaningful for her and that actually had more longevity. Because now, again, my dad lives like a pirate, just in a small granny flat somewhere, you know, with all his things, and mum has quite a stable, nice life in the country, you know. So it's just really interesting to sort of have, yeah, those examples given to me where I'm like, okay, cool, you know, both have value. And you know, I feel really fortunate there was no kind of, there was limits, you know, that I guess a lot of beliefs that I was taught by my mum, you know, around like, we can't have this or we can't have that, or, you know, often didn't have lunch at school and, you know, things like that. But I feel like it also taught me what I don't want, and also what is possible as well. And yeah, just so many different beliefs. But I work with a lot of people where, you know, yeah, I guess like you mentioned, you know, up in the higher realms, and it's like, you know, we need to kind of have an understanding of both sides in order to then choose what we want to cherry pick. You know, we don't have to only live in, you know, the higher realms and sort of be a bit out of touch with, you know, there's certain things that we need in this world, you know, in order to sort of function. And it's important to place focus on that, but not too much focus, you know, and sort of cherry pick. And sometimes it might be like, whoa, hang on a second, I'm being way too serious here. Maybe it's time to sort of, you know, touch back into, you know, different areas and sort of just maintaining that balance, but from both sides, like have an understanding of both sides. So yeah, it's interesting as well, like you said, with the sex magic world, you know, a lot of integration around their sexuality, but you know, money is a separate topic in itself. I feel like it's really relatable with stripping as well. You know, obviously, you know, sexuality is really integrated and celebrated, and it just feels completely normal, you know, or yeah, it's just a non-issue. But for some people, yeah, money can be a thing, because so many times in one evening, you're going to be pitching people large amounts of money, you know, and that can be uncomfortable sometimes, especially if we're wanting to pitch, I guess, amounts that we think are too much or more than what we would spend. And it's like, we're kind of projecting our things onto the other people.
Yeah.
Because they might completely see the value. And it's like, why are we blocking them from having the good feelings of giving to someone they want to give to?
Totally. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm going to the strip club, you know, I'm not always, but I might have $2,000 in my pocket, you know, I'm like, fuck it, let's go out. It's Friday, you know, like, it's like, you know, and it's been committed for that purpose. It's like, cool, I'm not going to be going home with any of that money. That's fine. That's the whole point, you know, like, let's just see what happens. Yeah, because I'm not at work, you know, and I don't go, if I go to the strip club, I'm not going there to save money, you know, I've gone there to go, you know, let's let loose a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So can you tell us a little bit about the course that you're putting together and that you've been writing about recently?
Yeah, I'm running something called the Wealth Wizard Challenge, which will run from July 11 for 4 weeks. And it's actually a course I've run twice before, right? So I created something called Wealth Wizardry 101, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a magical take, like how I think is quite magical, but actually what we're learning is super fucking practical money mastery stuff for the most part. And it's 101 in the sense that like this is a fundamentals course, right? Like it'd be useful for a lot of people if you haven't got your shit absolutely together across a whole bunch of areas. It will elevate you, but it's starting with the absolute basics, and a bit like a yoga class, depending where people are at. We can do the pose at the level 1 or the level 2, or if you really have got some of this already in your toolkit, I'm going to take people a bit further. But basically, what I devised was for myself, a system with 4 pillars. And it's like, one of them is the inner game of money. So how you handle your self-concept, beliefs, values, emotions, vibrational state, physiology, like everything that happens inside is week 1. Week 2 is managing money. And I teach with this metaphor of the bathtub. And so the bathtub is like a systems theory idea of like, if you think of a tub of water with taps flowing in and a plug in the bottom, and if there's no plug in the bottom, it's flowing out. Essentially, to be able to master money management, you just need to be able to see the bathtub, control the taps, i.e. how much comes in, and control how much goes out. And then you can manage the right amount, maybe even add some essential oils and shit like that. But, so managing it is the next piece. Third pillar is how to make more, which is one of my areas of joy and mastery. After many years, I went from never having earned more than about 30 grand a year as a rapper / telemarketer in the sort of 2010s, 2000s, to like hitting my first 50K months when I created the spiral. And I was like, what the fuck? This is better. I did more this month than my best year in a job. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. It was like 10, 11 years ago. And I've done those kind of numbers for the last decade, and it's become pretty normal. But I'm very good. I notice people around me tend to level up how much money they make pretty quickly, because there's a certain thing of like just how to deploy your creativity to invent new streams or to increase the ones that you already have. So making more money is obviously the third pillar. And the fourth one is multiplying what you have. So keeping and growing what you have. So it's more about the fundamentals of growth, investing, and the kind of core principles that sit under that. So a lot of people tend to be caught up in, should I buy crypto or real estate? And it's like, that's not the question. What you should be doing is unlocking, where do you want to be in 20 years? Where are you now? What are you good at? How are you sort of designed? And building a strategy based on that. It's not about the external of like, well, I've heard real estate's doing better than shares nowadays. It's like, that's, this constant externalizing. It's like, well, probably a mixture of all the things is good, but what the mixture is depends on who you are and how you want to live and what you want to dedicate your time to and whatnot. So basically, when you combine these 4 pillars, you're in a game, you're managing money, you're making money, you're multiplying money, you put all those together, it's pretty easy to create wealth, And what I do with this system is sort of every 6 months to a year, I'll sit down and I'll just rank myself out of 10. Like, how's my money mindset? How's my self-concept? How's my inner worth going? It's dropped a little bit. I had a tough year. I'm kind of a 5 out of 10. All right. We're going to work on journaling and clearing and visioning and identity change and inner work, or maybe that's great. I've been leaking a lot. I've been overspending. I've been, I got 100 apps that I'm signed up for that's just fuck, I haven't even looked at. Whatever it is, I'm going to do money management, or I'm going to check, okay, I actually haven't been very creative and expansive lately. I need to get my expansion energy on, or all that's great. I want to increase my savings and investing. So once you've learned these 4 pillars, it gives you a little system to assess where you're at and work out what part to increase or improve at a given point in life, rather than just being like, I'm not where I want. It's like, well, we can isolate super quickly. Actually, you're doing fine. You're just not feeling good. We need to work on gratitude shit. Actually, your inner game is fine. You need to fucking learn how to sell something. It's like, it's different for everyone, but having this little diagnostic makes it super easy. So in the course, we'll run through all 4 pillars, do a bunch of Q&As, throw in some kind of ritual and magic-y stuff, but largely a lot of practicals made very fun, so that people will come in, they're going to leave with a much higher level of order and gratitude and clarity around their wealth plans. And, last time I had people just adding new, I just made $2,000 selling all the old shit out of my cupboard. I just added a new offer to my thing. And it's like, okay, you just, once you get in that energy, it just makes money easy. That's really the game, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I could just fully visualize what you're talking about as you're explaining. It's like a scaffold, and it's,
Yeah.
yeah, and I love that, you can assess yourself, and it's not just like a once and done thing. It's like, okay, let me come back to this and sort of assess myself and see, yeah, if anything's leaking, if anything needs tweaking. That really helps to make it clear. A lot of the time as well, like you mentioned, when people are freaking out, or like, oh, I'm not where I want to be, and it's like, actually you are, but sometimes just having that full picture in front of you so you can see, actually I am where I am right now, there's no point in freaking out about reality. And also, yeah, just sort of having that framework to see, actually I am on track. It's just, maybe I'm being impatient, or yeah, like you said, the gratitude,
Totally. Yeah.
all those things. And the fast forwarding to the 20 years, yeah, that's absolutely true, because if we don't check in on what that looks like, we might build towards something that actually we don't want to be in.
100%.
In those 20 years, it's like, oh, great, I've got, this portfolio and it bores the shit out of me and I don't feel fulfilled, So yeah, really looking at, like, as a character, what is it that you want to build and where do you want to be? And then, yeah, what does that look like? Because the investment part, there's a million ways to skin a potato. It's like, what works for this person is not going to be for you, and vice versa. So it's like, you can make money so many different ways, or like build it, so yeah, looking at like what lights you up and what is it that you want to create. I love that so much. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, and once you've got I visualize it, that's that way of thinking that you just mentioned, like all the pieces of the puzzle, it feels like it kind of all clicks together. And if a piece is missing, it's kind of so easy to diagnose. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way I view stripping and all the elements, like, oh, you're going through this. Okay, this is going to be your antidote.
Yeah.
And it can become really simple when we're thinking in terms of that, with that sort of framework in place. So that course sounds amazing. For everyone listening, I'm going to put a link to that when that's good and ready, and also a link to find Dane Tomas. Is there anything that you want to share that just has come to you during this that you want to put out there?
Not really off the top of my head. No, I mean, it's funny when you were talking, I was just picturing the little model, right, of the pillars, and it's like, the emoji for a bank.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, so it's like there's like these like three pillars, and then like the mindset and habits is like the little roof, and it sort of sits together like a, and how I got there was I've been working on wealth for 20 years, and I've been really good in one area, and then I watch another area go to, like, we're making tons of money. It's like, what are you saving investing? Oh, nothing. Okay, so you're doing these big months and you saving jack shit. Okay, we need to increase, how much we save and whatever. So yeah, just throwing that out there as this little machine. But no, that's my piece. If you have any more questions, I'm here for it. But
yeah, cool.
yeah, I basically really love it is about good people master this area so they can create what they want in the world, That's
Yeah.
really what it's about.
Yeah, definitely, because we can push and push and push, and when there's like a resistance there, it can just make things a bit more challenging. And so I'm with you there, where it's like you want to see people least resistance, and all the efforts that they put in, supporting them, and it's so nice to watch that, with people that have gifts and talents, and seeing them thrive. I just want to ask, what is if there were to be like a number one piece that you would want to share with the stripping community around, say, I want to go to the inner world, like the self-belief part, or anyone really, but what is the number one thing that you feel really gets in the way there with the initial, like, Belief around deserving.
Look, there's two ways you can approach it, and one is to look at kind of shame and guilt and stuff like that stored in the body. So the spiral type work, clearing, baggage shifting, trauma healing, any of that stuff is going to help with worth on a basic level, because if you're carrying shame, guilt, etc., it's going to kind of drag you down, so that's the kind of like problem solution ways, like, look, shedding as much baggage as possible. But the other side is, if you are connected to a vision that is bigger than you, that is important to you, and you are continually re-looping and connecting into that vision, it's going to level up what you have the confidence to ask for. It's going to level up how you carry yourself. It's going to pull you beyond like, oh fuck, I don't want to ask for that again. It's like, hey, I'm building a fucking retreat center in fucking Maui, all right? So every dance, every sale, I never miss my upsell, whatever it is, because my vision is this thing, which is fucking huge. And on my days off and in my morning when I do my practice, I vision that and I meditate that and I fucking vibrate that. So when I'm on the job, whatever the job is, I'm not in like, am I good enough? I'm in like, I am building my vision. I am bringing through something special here. And it's just being connected to something bigger than who we are, because in a way, like, it's a bit of a paradox, because on the one level, I super advocate for all the inner child work and the healing and the shedding the baggage and trauma healing and all that shit, super helpful. On another level, at a certain point, you got to realize that shit is endless,
Yeah, it's true.
and if you just tap more into like your soul and your big vision and your full potential, you're less affected by the fact that, the way I grew up wasn't so great, or I carry this and that shame and trauma and fear in my life. It's like, yeah, we all fucking do. And when I'm really connected to something that is meaningful, I'm not thinking about that. This is how amazing artists can get on stage, that it's not because they all have perfect self-esteem and have healed all their trauma. It's because the thing that they're connected into brings something bigger through them. And people who could be quite shy or quite anxious or quite whatever, it's like, well, when I walk out stage with my guitar, I'm bringing through, my higher self, my gifts, and maybe that same person, if they have to get up and give a speech at a fucking birthday party, like, oh, I fucking wouldn't do that. But it's like, you can play guitar in front of 6,000 people. It's like, that's different, because they are tapped into you. You could call it soul if you want, it's one way of looking at it, or spirit, or whatever, higher purpose. I think that's, for me, I was a telemarketer before. When I was coming out of rap, I've been rapping for 10 years and realizing I wasn't going to make what I wanted. Didn't have a lot of marketable skills, went into the telemarketing world, and it was my fucking savior, and it was like, I'm looking around and it was a lot of people's hell, it's like they're stuck in a job they hate. I'm like, this is amazing. This is a job where I can get better at it and I make more money, like, you can be sat next to one person and they're making 30 or 40 grand and the next person's making 80, but just because they fucking are better at asking questions on the telephone. Like, that's crazy, right? And I sucked at that job so bad. And then when I decided to get better, I started like meditating every morning, and I would visualize, we used to write our sales on a little whiteboard. I'd visualize my name and my little sales symbol just filling up the whole fucking whiteboard. And I did that every day for a few months. And I remember like about 4 months in, coming home, and that had happened. Like, I'd put up like 16 sales when like 3 or 4 sales was a good day. And people would look at me like, what's he doing? And I was like, holy fuck. Like, it was the kind of secret there. I was like, I fucking manifested this, And it was like, I was less in the grind. Like, there was still a grind going on, but I was less in the grind. And I was just so elevated on my own vision and my own vibe, that it took months, but of every day. But eventually it was like, holy shit, the thing in my imagination is starting to happen. And it was just like, yeah, you're visioning it, you're vibrating it, you're being that person. And it was because I wanted to level up and become something else. I knew I wanted to go and do my own business. I didn't really know how, but I knew that my telemarketing started to pay for my personal development courses and coaching courses. And, every commission check went on to some other, John DeMartini or the Coaching Institute or whoever, whatever your marketing training, whatever it was I was thinking would level me up. I started spending on it. And I just had this higher purpose that meant like, yeah, is working in a call center boring? Yeah, it's fucking boring. But I'm not doing this to work in a call center. I'm doing this to become who I'm going to become, you know? And that got me through a lot of shitty, um, hard days and hard weeks, and sort of, and showed me this kind of magic in action, a little bit of like, oh, I literally sucked so bad. And then within, through
Mhm.
visioning, and you know, I read books and I practiced and all this other shit, but what drove me was like this vision of like, imagine if I could like make 10 sales a day. It's like, no one makes 10 sales a day. It's like, yeah, but imagine if I could. It was like, then I'd have enough to like, you know, go do these retreats that people are doing and do this. It's like, it's my ticket to another world, you know? And once that energy came in, it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, something almost superhuman took over.
Mhm.
And it wasn't about, oh, I feel fucking awkward trying to close the deal. It's like, all that just went away, because it was just like, I'm on a mission from God, you know? It was kind of that kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. It's like two things. It's like not about you actually. So there's
Yeah.
no room to doubt yourself if it's not even about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which is something that's like really, really helpful. And yeah, and feeling it's hard. You basically can't have a bad day when you know that it's building you towards the future version of yourself that you want to create. Because it's
Right.
like, oh, that was rough, but still I'm a step closer and like it's
Right.
exciting.
I'm
Yeah.
refining. Yeah, I got super rudely rejected. I'm refining my skill set with that. You know, I'm fucking. That's okay. That's a learning. That's a learning. And I got to the point where it was like, because a lot in that job, a lot of the time you call on people who don't even answer, right? So even getting a hello is like, okay, that's a start, and then getting past a minute in the conversation is the next one, and then getting to an actual whole pitch is like, and it was like, once you knew your stats, it was like, okay, so like on average, for every 20 rejections, I make a sale. And so rather than a rejection being is ruining my day, it's like, cool, percent of the way towards the okay, I'm 10% of the way there. Okay, I'm 15% of the way there. And it was like this mentality of like, I've got to collect 19 more of these fucking dickheads today.
Yeah.
So let's get it. Let's get a couple more of those rejections, and then I'm gonna hit the sale, you know? And it was just like, it just shifted the game. And like, when I started building my own business, I just brought that mentality across of like, we've got to talk to this
Mhm.
many people, and then things will happen. And you know, that was a huge advantage over other coaches and healers and whatnot, was that I'd come from the sales space and was just like, man, I just need to talk to, you know, X many. In the old days, it was like, we got to talk to 100 people a week or whatever, you know? And it was just like, I don't even operate like that now, but at the time it was just like, it gave me a method that was like, ah, like this guy's unstoppable, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It gave you a grit and because you felt that, like if I'm just gonna, push myself, I see results, because before that it can be like a bit victimy or a bit like, oh, this is happening to me. And then when you start doing that visualization, I had a similar experience as well, like daily, like a full-on practice outside of what you're doing, in your own
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Having that practice, really connecting in, visualizing, and then shit starts changing. And it's like, I was nervous to even think this was possible. And now it's happening, it's
Yeah.
really cool. And then to be able to sort of repeat that. And I just want to add in just a couple of little things because I love what you were talking about just now. When the vision is bigger than you and your fear and all of the things that go on, yeah, like I was saying, like it just propels you. You get this, it's not even, it is like it's, from whatever you might want to call it, source or, whatever, but an extra propulsion, it's sort of like joining in with your own motivation. It's like this extra oomph of motivation. And, fear doesn't even match, it doesn't even have a chance when you've got that propulsion behind you. And so, yeah, that's something that's so huge in the industry that, I'm in with your why, basically. So for the people out there listening, and doesn't matter what you're into, but, if you find that you're stumbling constantly on self-doubt and things like that, it's keeping you small, that's the antidote. It's like tapping into like the bigger purpose. And a lot of the time it's not about you. And like the analogy you're giving with the rock star, being able to show up and all of that, I can almost imagine that majority of those people, it's not about them playing the music, it's it's for the people. So why would they not want to, you know, show up and perform in front of heaps of people, even though it might scare the bejesus out of them, you know? But it's like, it's not about them, it's for the people. And so we can bring that into anything that we do. A saying that I've heard a lot lately that I really enjoy is purpose. Fear will push you, but purpose will pull you.
Yeah, that's nice.
So yeah, really tuning into that purpose. What are you doing it all for? Otherwise, what's the point? So amazing. Thank you so much for bringing up all of these interesting topics. There's a lot to think about in these conversations. A lot is relatable. And I also did telemarketing. And I was one of the people that hated it. And I hated it so much. The way that I coped with it was I bought a click tickler with a remote. And between calls, I would just turn that thing up. And then if someone answered, I'd turn it off. And that was my way of like getting through those shifts, because I think I was about 19, but I found it so brutal. Even my manager would walk up behind me and be like, stop sounding so miserable. And it's like, oh, how can I feel miserable. But anyway, it's good that you found, you know, no matter what you do, it's like you can find the joy and the motivation in it if it's part of the path that's right for you, you know. And if that just doesn't spark, it's like, get the fuck away from that, you know. Start finding things that spark joy. So yeah, happy travels. I look forward to seeing you traveling. For anyone that wants to find Dane, Dane is super interesting. Definitely give him a follow and check out all of the good things that he puts out into the world. A lot of music as well lately.
Yeah, music mostly on Instagram. I got new music coming as well. I got a single about to drop called Magic is Real. So very on brand and very, you know, expressing this kind of ethos, and a lot more ranting on Facebook and ideas and, you know, philosophical, provocative rants basically. And I have a little email I do once a week called Love and Dark as well, which is kind of like a summary of my thoughts and best bits and pieces. So, but yeah, Insta's a good place to start. All my shit's in my link tree, so you can find all. I've got like a sex magic talk playlists that I curate. I got all kinds of stuff via Instagram, so it's a good place to start.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Yeah, you're an amazing lyricist as well. Like super witty. Yeah, love it. Awesome. All right, I'll let you go. I'll just finish this, but yeah, check out the links. I'll be in the notes at the bottom, and I hope everyone has a beautiful week.